Stuart McCall here, making a low-quality video on a high-quality subject. Scaled vector graphic files, SVG, files animated in a website using HTML and JavaScript. We're going to build an SVG file and build a website, and we're going to do it right now, next few minutes. So let's take a look. I am using the OBS video editing software. If you need video editing software, Google it and you can get that going. Right now, I want to show you my Christmas card. Here we are with my two kids, Jack and Ted, and my wife, Janet. Now that you know something about me, let's get started. Of course, what we want to be able to do in the end is create a high-quality, content-rich website like this. We created TeslaEstimate.com. You'll see that what we did is we embedded a SVG file of the Tesla Model 3 bumper. SVG files have a great characteristic in that they are interactable. So as you can see here below here, there's an SVG file. As I click on the parts, they respond to the system and they actually access an SQL file here and then display and populate the information for the price of the part and the R&I times and the refinish times right into the estimate itself. So this is the goal. We're not going to do that complicated of a deal today. We're going to do a simple stoplight today. So we're going to create this stoplight, and what we want to do is have an SVG file that goes like this, where it animates by changing from red to yellow to green, and around it goes. So that's an HTML file. We're going to start instead, though, with the actual simple SVG file. You have to start with the graphic itself. So here's the graphic file. All of this is on my website, stuartmccoll.com, StuartMcColl.com. In this case, stuartmccoll.com/stoplight nostyle.svg. You can see it right in the URL up there, STOPLITENOSTYLE.svg. Here's the file. Let's take a look at the source code. Right-click in the middle of the pages. We know we can do on browsers and go down to View Page Source. None of this posting on GitHub and all that stuff. Let's just jump to the file and take a look at the text. Here it is, the source. And you'll see all the characteristics there of what it takes to make a scaled vector graphic file. And the first thing is the first line calls out the SVG characteristics that must be applied to the text that follows. This is an XML file essentially, and you'll see as we move down the line that we create the text. Stu's stoplight, simple SVG is the text, and then we call out a rectangle. We give it the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, and the fill is blue. And then we have three different circles that are positioned at different Y positions. And they are different colors, and you'll see it all called out there. It's pretty simple. It's basic SVG programming there. Nothing too smart there, just text. Here's what's so incredible about it, though. This is an SVG file, and I'm just going to cut and paste this source code right out and do something. It's so simple, it's not even impressive, but let's just do it. I'm going to create a notepad file inside of Windows, and you could create a notepad file on your iMac or wherever you are, and just take and cut and paste that text right out of View Page Source from the website into a file like this. This is a simple text file. There's nothing too outrageous about this. I'm going to go ahead and save this file to testlight.svg in my test folder. And the reason I'm going to do that is I just want to demonstrate how simple all of this is. We don't have to install any drivers. We don't have to, have all this overhead or anything like that. It's just a text file. Inside now, a simple file inside of that I created with Notepad inside a folder on your iMac, on your Windows workstation here, and all it is a file like this. So if I take TestLight that I just saved the text that you saw there, and I right-click on it, and then I say Open with, Google Chrome, it'll just go ahead and fire it off just like it was kind of like a website. So it's a really good way to build text, to test text, and to look at text without having to deal with the whole web page thing. And you could come in here and fool around. Oh, look, I'll fool around with this little source code I just got from Stu's website, and you could change the red light to green, and you could change the green light to blue, and you could change the blue light or the yellow light to magenta, whatever you want to do. So you can just test that and see, in fact, that you have some control of how this SVG file works. So I just went in again, and you could do that on the iMac in the exact same way. Went in and sent the file to a browser. I did want to just reiterate that if I right-click on this and then I say open with, I'm going to say open with Notepad. There it is again. I mean, that's all it is. And that's SVG. It's an XML file. It's a text file. And it creates a scaled vector graphic file. I love it. Anyway, let's move on to the next example here. And the next example is Stu's stoplight, simple SVG. Let's go on to the next one, Stu's stoplight sum style. So if I go to Stu's stoplight sum style and I right-click on it and I go down to view page source, I should call that out. Stoplight sum svg.svg. Stoplight sum style.svg on the Stuart McCall website. If I look at the actual text itself, inside the file, I see that I've created a style tag here. So this is just a little bit more powerfully used tool inside of SVG that allows me to remove these characteristics, in this case the stroke and the stroke width. That's the black line around the rectangle, it's the black line around the circle. And you'll notice that if you look at the previous file, they had those characteristics all called out in those elements for circle and rectangle, but here we've created a universal place where we've put those things inside of the style tag. It should be noted that the style tag inside of an SVG file, while it looks very similar to the styling inside of an HTML file, it actually can be different. It can be similar, but it can be different. We're going to take a look at some of those nuances in just a minute. And so be aware that there are similarities but differences between that style tag as we integrate SVG files directly in with HTML. So let's go to the next one now, and the next one is going to be Stu's stoplight more style.svg. Okay, so we're applying even more style to this particular SVG file. And see the note at the bottom of the page, SVG class does not work on iPhone. So we're actually going to demonstrate a problem here. We're going to right-click on it, and we're going to go to View Page Source, and you'll see that I've created a class up here inside the style tag of the SVG file. What the class does is similar to a style. It allows me to take characteristics and apply them across multiple elements. In this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and apply multiple elements across multiple elements are going to receive the characteristics applied from the light class. So if you look at the actual syntax here, circle class equals light, and I've defined the strokes up here, but I've also defined the radius and the X position up there and was able to remove them from down there. So it made it a simpler looking set of text. And you saw that in fact it worked. So more style. Why did you say it didn't work on an iPhone? Well, if we take a look at it, we can see right here that if you enter that same URL in Safari, unlike if you had entered those other URLs for the other SVG files, if you'd entered them in, I don't see any lights on there. They don't work. So we've demonstrated that, in fact, just because it works on one browser doesn't necessarily work on all browsers. And I figured out while I was doing this drill that this is a perfect example. All good programmers know you have to test your software. You also have to look for references, and you can find references online of what SVG functions and methods and elements and characteristics work on which browsers. This is clearly an area that we demonstrated doesn't work on certain browsers, works on other browsers. This class doesn't work either. These characteristics in this class don't work either on Firefox. So if you go ahead and put this stuartmccall.com stoplight more style.svg into Firefox, you'll see that the lights don't appear there either. Just a demonstration that you should always test stuff. Everything's not the same, and we're not going to do that again. As we move forward to the next one, and that is we're going to move forward to stuartmccall.com stoplight. We're going to go to an HTML file now, so it's stoplight stopliteif.html, and you'll see it right there in the URL. So this has embedded JavaScript and some embedded style inside of the HTML. If I right-click here and I go to View Page Source, I'm going to see that. I've actually created an HTML file. There's a head section, a head tag, and inside head tag is the style of the HTML itself. And I've also put that style that we talked about inside the SVG file just a minute ago. I've actually embedded some of those elements. Rectangle, circle are embedded up there, carrying the characteristics of the stroke and the stroke width, and they're integrated in tightly with the HTML we've demonstrated there. And we've also added something called an ID to the actual elements of the circle, the actual 3 circle elements. We've added ID equals red, ID equals yellow, and ID equals green. IDs in HTML, of course, allow you to call out particular elements and do make adjustments to those elements interactively or online. So that's what we've done is we've gone ahead below in the script section. Now you'll see the tag down here for script, and where you see script tag inside of HTML, what's between the script tags is the JavaScript itself. In this case, the JavaScript itself is embedded, and if we look down inside the JavaScript, we see those IDs are referenced down in here by get element by ID yellow, and it tells us what to do about that particular element up there, the red light, the yellow light, and the green light. The way we did this was with the way we implemented this function, this change light function, which, by the way, is linked directly to this button that we set up here. The button, change light button, manually change, is connected to the change light function inside of the script. When this function for change light executes, it uses a variable called which light. Now we set which light up equals red when this is executed for the first time, and then it can cycle through red, through yellow, through green as it changes automatically or manually. And you can see it yourself by looking closer. I don't think I need to quite explain how switch works inside of JavaScript, but switch, if it was red, turns to Y, and then if it was Y, we change it to green, G, and then if it's G, we'd rechange it to red as we're cycling through the lights. There are other ways to automate SVG files, and somebody out there might say, Stu, there's another way. And there are other ways, and we looked at the other ways, but you know what? We found this way. Use the least amount possible lines of code to do this. If you want to talk about the other ways available, please put them in the comments below, in the YouTube comments below here. And I'd love to see all the other ways there were to automate. And I would particularly like to see if there was a way to do this exact drill with less lines of code. So we chose this way because it was the minimal amount lines of code we could locate. There you have it. HTML, tags, all kinds of stuff in there. Easy to read. So let's go back to the original project, and that is right here, HTML. And if we look at the title here, Stu's Stoplight Demo with CSS Style Sheet, JScripted Files, stuartmccall.com/stoplite.html. This is the project. If I right-click in the middle of it and I go down to View Page Source like we've been doing, I can now look at what's inside this HTML file, and look how simple it is. I mean, that is 24 lines of code to do that. It's an SVG animation with animation. SVG file with animation. That's 24 lines of code. That's incredibly efficient. But the way you do that, of course, is like the whole internet is built on JavaScript files and cascading style sheets, CSS files, and of course we did that here. And if you look up at the top here, we did a link to those 2 files. And if I click on stoplight.js like this, and I look at the stoplight.js file, I can see that, all you did was take the script out of the embedded script from the other file and put it here. And the reason why this is so valuable to do that isn't just because it makes it more efficient code, it's easier to read, but because now this JavaScript file, this JS file, is available to the entire website. And same true with this cascading style sheet. All the characteristics end up looking the same, so you have a uniform looking website. It's much more efficient in how it's written and much more simple, and that's what we're always looking for, something that's simple. So there is our JS file with the same exact logic we looked at before. and just review that logic itself. And what I encourage you to do is download it, put it into those files like I showed you how to with Notepad, and then make little changes to it so you can learn how to do that. And one of the little changes might be you'll change the colors of the lights like I told you into fantastic different colors other than red, green, yellow. And you could also change things like the timing inside of the auto change function to make it so it takes 20 seconds to change the light rather than 5, and these kinds of things. This is how you learn. That is how it all works. Of course, the goal is something fantastic like this website we're building here. We really have a lot of confidence in this project we're building at TeslaEstimate.com. We know it's going to be very valuable to Tesla in their collision side of their business as well as their insurance side of the business. Bringing together both sides of the business under a standard estimating system is an exciting project. Thank you very much for watching. Please put criticisms in the comments below. I like the criticisms. I take the compliments too, but the criticisms are always the most fun to read. And so give me some nice criticism. Tell me if there was better ways to do this project, better ways to make it more understandable. And we will move forward with the next video and explaining exactly how we make an SVG file interactive, exactly how we connect it to SQL and apply logic to a file in the form of Python. That'll be the next video that we come coming up. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.